Tonight, as we pay tribute to his 71 years of life, I want to share a favorite picture of mine. Bruce Johnson and that winning smile posing next to his mural at Ben's Chili Bowl. And this is what it looks like tonight at the Wall of Excellence, with faces like Barack and Michelle Obama and Chuck Brown, Dave Chappelle, and local news legend Jim Vance. It is fitting for his likeness to sit on a D.C. institution. Bruce, of course, is part of the fabric here in this city. The impact of his life and legacy will last far longer than that paint on brick. D.C. and Bruce walk hand in hand. Good evening, everyone. I'm Leslie Foster, and I know I haven't been on the screen for a while, and I'll be honest, I wish I was coming back to you today with better news. But our dear friend and colleague and mentor and fierce advocate for the community, Bruce Johnson, passed away from a heart attack last night. He was 71, and he sure packed a lot of life into that dash. He shared more than 4 decades with his friends here at WUSA 9 and with you at home. And of course, he was so much more than just the job that he loved. He was husband to his beloved wife, Lori, who he adored and cherished. He was father to 3 children, Brandon and Krishana and Carolyn. And of course, Pop never missed a moment to show off his 4 precious grandchildren. He was just so proud. So tonight, I just want to ask you to sit with me for a bit while we remember and we pay tribute to one of the most generous and exquisite humans I've ever had the opportunity to know and love. We're going to hear from his colleagues and his friends and people here in the community who all have a story or two to share about Bruce. So right now, and for many years to come, we are remembering Bruce Johnson. And of course, you can't talk about Bruce without talking about that incredible heart. He approached everything he did with tenacity and fierce determination, and of course, the deepest of compassion. And so, Delia, you know all about that, right? You know all about the heart and the love and the passion and the gifts that Bruce shared with us and so many others.
Right, and it's such a blessing that we had him in our lives.
That's right.
We wish he was here longer, but these tears are tears of joy.
That's right.
Because this is a man who shared so much of himself, whose light radiated, right? I remember my first DC political live shot, standing next to Bruce Johnson, this DC legend. I could have easily been intimidated, but I felt his aura. I felt him pulling for me, cheering me on, leading me along the way. And that's who he was. He was all about uplifting others. And so I'm so happy that he's received his flowers while he's still here. While he was still here, he received his flowers. You know, he got that beautiful mural on the wall outside of Ben's.
He was so proud of that, something that he had longed for and was just so grateful for the opportunity to share the space with DC Legends. Yeah.
That's right. And so we are so happy to talk to legends in their own right. Maureen Bunyan, and Andrea Roan, so many giants here in DC. But you know, Bruce Johnson was Channel 9. Even after he left, even after he retired, folks always said, hey, how's that Bruce Johnson? we love Bruce Johnson.
That's right.
Everyone always had a story about Bruce. He was the gold standard of reporters, insightful, impactful, and deeply intense. You knew he was going to get to the bottom of the story. You knew you were going to get your questions answered. His relentless pursuit of the truth inspired generations.
A mentor, a leader, a servant, a friend. For 44 years, Bruce Johnson led with his heart and graced us with his light. A news legend who understood the privilege of telling your stories. His unyielding passion and commitment to the truth inspired us all and drove him to excellence.
He is a model case for any young journalist out there, what to do, what not to do. Look to the career of Bruce Johnson. Read that book, Surviving Deep Waters.
He's a guy who never sat down. In this book, he tells us that his first car had no reverse gear. And I like that. It's kind of a metaphor for his life because The guy never backed up.
Well, he just had a magnetic personality. So much energy and so much love for people. He really, really loved people.
So it's almost my entire life. He was talking about the people and places that have made DC what it is. He had also ability to help mentor others. I know journalists, but also people in government.
I grew up with Bruce Johnson. You know, he was a legend, he was a fixture, he was a person we all felt we could trust. He grew up in literally, I felt that he was in my home for decades. He was a person that made all of us proud. He was an African-American man who was sharp. And he's just someone I remembered for most of my life, watching him, and had the distinct honor when I was elected of talking to him and him saying to me that he was proud of me.
Bruce meant the world to me. Bruce was here with us for such a long time. He was such a reporter and news person that wanted to get the story right.
I think that's what I loved about him the most, is he didn't just want a story. He didn't want to just hear what everyone else was saying about it. He wanted to know exactly what you felt, what you were experiencing, how he can help you.
And last time I met him again was Miss Ali's birthday party. And I have a video of him right here. He's talking about Miss Ali.
That's all because of you. And I tell him all the time, and if you're lucky, Virginia Ali will come down.
He was Washington. And that's why he's up on this wall here.
A person's real legacy is what they leave behind in terms of the younger people coming up, and his legacy there was tremendous.
So many of the greats. I asked Maureen Bunyan what we could all learn from Bruce, and she said, as reporters, we should learn a sense of duty. And even as residents, neighbors, folks at home, she said we can learn a sense of devotion to not only your work, but to the people around you.
Absolutely. The ultimate devotion, always working to make people around you better. Yeah. That was Bruce. That was Bruce. You know, we've been talking about how much we love Bruce, and we know how you feel his loss too. And so many of you have turned to social media as we all mourn and remember together. So, Adam, I want to talk to you because you're getting a sense of Bruce's impact through what people are saying on social media.
Yeah, and we just can't underscore what he meant to us and what he meant to everyone else in this community, and that's why we have so much to say about him. Here, Muriel Bowser tweeting about the news last night when she found out. She said Bruce Johnson was a giant of DC journalism, father, grandfather, husband, and proud author. He's been a part of my life since I was a little girl, delivering the news and giving a voice to DC residents. I'm heartbroken. Rest in heaven. Our former colleague, Deborah Alfarone, who worked with Bruce for years on the weekends, says of Bruce, he was my mentor, my co-anchor, my biggest cheerleader, my ear to bend, my dating coach when I was single, and my friend. Rest in power, Bruce. There will not be another like you. Amen to that. Here, the Majority Leader of the House, Maryland Congressman Steny Hoyer. I join our community in remembering Bruce Johnson today, a journalist who for years dedicated himself to his craft and ensuring the nation capital region was well informed. My deepest condolences to his family and those at WSA 9. Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, deeply saddened to learn of the passing of Bruce Johnson. This story that Bruce did with the governor when the governor was able to fight back after his cancer diagnosis and come back to work. Bruce and him were able to share that experience. It's a tremendous story. If you're able to find it on WSA 9's website, just search up Bruce Johnson and Larry Hogan. Rabbi Shmuel Hurtzfeld, a great guy, a neighbor, and a friend. The DC Public Library. There was an event scheduled for this Wednesday with Cortland Malloy of the Washington Post and the DC Public Library to talk about Bruce and his new book, Surviving Deep Waters. I reached out to the library today and I said, what can we do to get Bruce's book in the library for DC's youth and for everyone in DC to be able to read? You know what they told me? They said they're already on it. The DC Public Library has purchased 27 of Bruce's books. They're going to be putting them into circulation shortly. And finally, I just want to share some personal pictures that I was able to put on my Facebook page with Bruce. Look, always the Joker. This is at one of our company Christmas events. He's throwing up the bunny ears behind me. And one comment on this post that I put on my Facebook page from Velma Wiggins here. So heartbroken, incredible, and passionate man. I first met him in 1978 when my family and I were homeless and living in a hotel. He came to my rescue, was instrumental in getting my children and I into permanent housing. I was so happily living there for 20 years, and thank God for Bruce's compassion. Leslie, I know I speak for all of us here, and it sounds a little cliche. I'm so sad that he's gone, but I'm so glad that we had him in our lives.
I know. And that was the greatest gift, to have spent time with Bruce, to have learned from him, and to hear the beautiful story that one of our viewers just shared about how he helped her family. That is who he was. He wanted to see the people who had been previously unseen. Absolutely. He saw the humanity in everybody. You know, you can see that Bruce Johnson was a lot of things to a lot of people, but let me tell you this. He was a fighter, all right? He survived a heart attack. He went on to run the Marine Corps Marathon, even though everybody told him not to do it. But of course, that was Bruce's way. And he went on to beat cancer, and he loved the competition. Darren Haynes, you know all about Bruce and his competitive bug, and I got to watch a lot of this banter between the two of you.
I will say this, I absolutely miss it.
Yeah.
I miss that.
It's
that
too
competition.
quiet. It's too quiet.
And you know, Bruce Johnson's a reason why I'm actually here, because during my audition, I had to debate against Bruce Johnson, talk about that competition on my first day coming here. But I mean, Bruce Johnson, not only was he competitive, but he was also a big-time DC sports fan. I mean, so big, he celebrated finishing his cancer treatment like this.
I'd like to thank everybody out there on social media, all the Channel 9 viewers and everybody, you know, for your love, your support, your prayers. Prayers do work. I'm out.
Yeah, Bruce loved the Nats, and the feeling was mutual. Today, the team tweeted, "We're saddened by the loss of legendary anchor Bruce Johnson. Bruce was as passionate of a Nats fan as you can find. Our thoughts are with his family and friends." And it's sad because he took me under his wing. And one time, you know, during his off-script show, anytime there was ever a sports event on, he was like, "Darren, I need to get you on." And, you know, your parents will be your biggest promoter, and Bruce Johnson was that for me, you know? So it's sad. I'm almost like speechless when usually on this set, I have no problem talking. But usually when you're passionate about something, or you love something, or something hurts you dearly, it kind of makes you lost for words.
Well, he loved you, and he was so very proud of you. And that was evident in what we could see both on the air and off. We're going to take a quick break from remembering Bruce Johnson, and we're going to show you a man of style. Look at that DC swagger. I mean, that is quintessential Bruce Johnson. Stay with us as we remember him this half hour.
Bruce Johnson was probably the third person I heard speak here at Channel 9. When I came in August of 1988, I arrived in D.C. on a Wednesday, no rehearsals. We went on air Saturday, and Mr. Johnson was anchoring. He could not have been more comforting and more encouraging for my first broadcast here in my hometown. Bruce was authentic. He was a loving man, a giving man, and he also had one heck of a sense of humor. And he will be sorely, sorely missed.
He sure did have one heck of a sense of humor. We've been laughing to help with the tears around here too. You know, Bruce was partner and colleague to so many, but one of his most treasured roles was mentor. Larry Miller is here now, and Larry, Bruce helped bring you up in the biz like so many of us, and now you're sitting here in this chair, one of the many that he's been so proud of. How are you feeling as you sit here and we think about his storied career?
You feel this sense, being here in his same chair, that you have to be committed to the work, right? The work comes first, the integrity, the value, the compassion that we show to those out in the community. And I'm fortunate enough to have been kind of reared up by him, but there's so many of us, even behind the scenes, that have also been fortunate enough as well. You're thinking about producers, editors, writers, who've had the opportunity to work with him one-on-one. And one of the things you take away from working with him is one, he doesn't have to say much, right? Because you watch him and you see what he does on a daily basis, and you get this sense that I have got to work hard, work fast, be aggressive, be urgent. And I think for so many of us that have come up through the business and kind of, unusual ways at times, he really teaches you that when you get here, that you have to really refine the craft, that you have to be a person, a journalist for the people, advocating for them, but also making sure that you're getting those questions, those answers to important questions that people in our community have.
We have to be relevant to the lives of the people we serve. Always about the service. Always about the service.
Absolutely.
You know, Bruce made everybody feel special. That was part of his magic.
Oh, you're the king around here. You're the king.
Even Oprah herself knew he was the king. She had him speechless in a rare moment in his storied life. Our tribute to Bruce continues in just a couple minutes.
Tonight, I wanted to add my voice to remembering Bruce Johnson. After all, I had the honor, privilege, and insane task of taking over his longtime 7 p.m. time slot here at WUSA 9. And it's impossible to sum up 71 years of life, well lived, and 44 years of a storied career in just a few minutes. Bruce Johnson meant way too much to me and actually to all of us in the community that he served, to be able to do justice to his legacy in such a short amount of time. But what I can do is speak from the heart about a great man who inspired me, reached out willingly, always availed himself as a resource and as a mentor. He made a point to establish a regular dinner where we would check in with each other periodically, and I would drive home full of questions to ask for the next time. And my biggest regret is not taking more advantage of his openness. A lesson. You never know when an opportunity may be lost, so take advantage of the Bruce Johnsons in your life because they don't come around very often. Bruce devoted 44 years of his life to serving our community. A side effect of that long legendary career was not just the stories he told and the lives he affected, but how his passion, tenacity, and strength changed us, how it changed me. To see a man who had to overcome so many obstacles in his 4 decades handle it all with grace, class, and unending patience. One can't help but be moved and inspired. 44 years, 22 Emmys, and his likeness on DC's unofficial Mount Rushmore, the Ben's Chili Bowl mural. Not bad, Bruce. Not bad at all. Now, Bruce Johnson was a capital J journalist. I'm a comedian, but we both share a love of this community and a love of serving it. And I'm honored to host the 7 p.m. spot that he anchored for so many years. And I'll do my best to follow the example he set and strive to maintain the standard of excellence he established. Rest in peace, Bruce, and thank you for everything you've given to us all.
Before we go, you welcomed Bruce into your home for years, but if you never met him in person, you might be wondering, what was he really like? He was just like the person you saw on TV. He was smart and funny and direct and kind. What you saw is what you got. The real deal. You heard the expression, don't sweat the small stuff. Well, when it came to journalism, to getting the story right, you bet Bruce sweat the small stuff, because you get the small stuff wrong, then you got no business doing the big picture. And wow, did he do the big picture, big stories, big issues, issues that mattered to him and to you. Bruce was rock solid. He was tough, but he was always fair. And bottom line, you trusted him all these years. You trusted him for truth and for integrity, and we did too. And that trust, yours and ours, could not have been placed in better hands. Oh, how we will miss them. Love you, Bruce.